Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This morning we're going to go over gas-powered chainsaws and what your first chainsaw could be for chainsaw carving. Now remember, this is just my opinion. Everybody might have some other opinion on the topic, but if you're looking to get a gas-powered saw, I've got the top 3 in my opinion for your first one if you're a beginner chainsaw carver. I also have it set up here so it's your first, your second, and maybe your third saw even. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to stick around. We're going to get into it real soon. Like I said, first 3 gas saws for a beginner chainsaw carver or aspiring chainsaw artist. Now, a little while back I put out a video going over the 3 battery saws that I use and my recommendations and their setup. If you guys missed that video, I'll have it at the end of this one. A link to it, you guys can go there, check it out, see what it's all about. Now as far as gas saws go, this is just like the other video, this is just my opinion. Other carvers and other artists may have totally different opinions on these saws. I run steel, so everything we're going to be talking about here is steel chainsaws, okay? Now, the very first saw, in my opinion, that is a beginner saw, is a great saw to start with, a great saw to use to get into chainsaw carving, is the Stihl MS-170. Now, this is the 170 right here. It's got a different paint job because I did my own paint job on it, playing around one day, but this is the MS-170. Now, as you notice, my 170 looks a little different if you've done some research. This 170 is set up with a dime tip detail bar, and this detail bar is from Canon carving bar, and it works really well. Now a lot of times, if you guys follow my channel, you see me running Stihl dime tip bars, or still. I know I gotta say it different. I always say Stihl. Everybody gets mad, but it doesn't matter, right? Tomato, tomato. It's okay. Anyway, the dime tip bar. Now why do I recommend the 170? Well, I recommend the 170 as a great starter saw. One, it's cheap. You can get into carving cheap in the scheme of things, all right? Chainsaw carving is not a cheap sport or a cheap way to create all around. It gets very expensive. Once you buy one saw and you get going, then you're like, oh, I need a second saw, and then I need a third saw. And next thing you know, you got like a dozen saws piled up or more on top of the power tools and all the other things you're gonna buy. So think this through. You might have a problem after a year and buy too much stuff. Anyway, the Stihl MS-170. So this is a smaller saw. This is a homeowner series saw. It's not meant to be hammered on and beat on. A lot of professional carvers who've been around for a while say they're considered a throwaway saw in their field because those guys and gals are carving a lot and burn these saws up within 6 months to a year. I'm gonna be honest, I've had this saw and I've had another one since I've started carving, but I don't carve full time. Okay, I know I got the YouTube channel and everything. Everybody might think I do this full time. I still work a full-time job and I carve almost full time, but not as much as what I consider a professional carver, right? Now, I run my saws, you know, at a good speed, not always at full bore non-stop, and so they've lasted. But anyway, the MS-170. It's a nice small little saw. It usually comes with a 14 to a 16-inch bar, similar to this one. And it's cheap, right? You might be looking at 150 to 200 bucks to get you started. Now the nice thing with the 170 is you can swap it out and turn it into a detail saw, all right, with a detail bar. And what's cool about this is you're able to swap the bar and sprockets on and off with this saw. So when you first get this saw, I believe it comes with a 3/8 sprocket, which means a 3/8 bar and chain, 14, 16 inch, all right, 43 gauge, I believe. And that's your stock setup, similar to this. Now you can use that for blocking out your carvings. Let's say bears to make it easy. So you block out smaller bears, okay? I recommend like a 2, possibly a 3-foot bear with this saw. Anything bigger than that, and it's too much. It's just too much cutting for this little saw to handle. But you could probably get the job done. So smaller carvings, you know, 1, 2, 3 feet tops with the MS-170 is a great way to go. Now, if you have the money when you purchase this saw, because you got to buy it at a dealer, you can talk to them about ordering up a dime tip bar, sprocket, and get 2 carving chains, okay? And what you're gonna have to do is, well, block out your carvings with the stock bar, right? Do a few of them. Stop. Pull your cover off, pull off the bar, the chain, and that sprocket, and put the carving sprocket on, the carving bar, and the carving chain. Now go through and detail all your pieces. When you're done, swap it back to stock, and then you can block out more pieces. The detail bars do not have a sprocket in the end. There's no wheel in here, no sprocket. This is just bare metal. And so they can burn up if not used properly, if they're not oiling properly. We say, like, as far as a dime tip bar goes, more oil the better. It's keeping it cooled and lubricated so you don't burn the tip of the bar up. Now, I don't block with this. I really don't. What I use is the bigger saw, or I use the stock bar. Now that I have more saws, it's usually a different saw, but when I first started, it was swapping things back and forth. Also, when I first started, I got 2 MS-170s, right? They were cheap. I could get in the game of carving for maybe around 400 bucks with 2 MS-170s, right? Probably, maybe it was 550 by the time you order a dime tip bar, chain, sprocket, 2 chains and a sprocket. Now I say 2 chains because you kind of go through 2 chains per bar depending on how you carve, and it's always a good idea to have a backup chain in the middle of a project. It breaks, you dull it, break a tooth, you know, I mean, you can swap it out. If it's dull, you got to learn to sharpen, but that's a whole different video. Anyway, MS-170. All right, guys, great starter saw. Swap out that stock bar for a dime tip bar, stock bar blocking, dime tip bar detail work, okay? Just keep them separate. So you got your 170, you're ready to upgrade to something that's going to block out carvings much faster. The next thing I stepped up to was the MS-250. Now that's this saw right here. Now I believe the MS-250 is coming with a 3.325 gauge chain, and it cuts pretty good. It does. It's got a lot more power than the 170, and it's great for blocking. Now, I see a lot of mixed reviews on the MS-250. Some people love it, some people hate it. I love it. I've had mine for this one for probably 4.5 years now. This has touched almost every carving I've done that's been from 1 foot to 6 feet tall. It's done a lot of smaller cuts and blocking cuts for me, and it has been what I considered upgraded. Now, keep this in mind. If you go ahead and get yourself the 250, turn your 170 into a dime tip bar. All right, now it's specifically for detail work. And then you move over to your 250 and you're blocking with it, right? Use your 250 to block with. Now, I say this saw has been upgraded. In the past, I had some conversations with another carver, and he made a suggestion for this saw, something he was doing and I decided to do, and I've had really, really great results. Now, obviously that can, you know, change for every person, but it's worked really, really well for me. What I have done is turn the 170 into a detail bar. All right, remember that requires a 1/4 pitch sprocket to go with the dime tip bar and chains. So you remove the 3/8 sprocket and bar and chain and set those aside. Then you get your 250 out. You break it down. You remove the bar and chain that comes stock and that sprocket, set them aside, and put all the parts on from the 170. So essentially what you've done is you've taken a bar of this size and you've downsized to a bar of this size. So we went from a bigger gauge chain, bigger teeth, wider bar, to a smaller gauge chain with thinner kerf or thinner cut teeth. Now, this only comes in a 16-inch bar of this size. It doesn't come in an 18, so your reach for your cuts are a little bit smaller. But in my opinion, this saw rips. I mean, it just rips. Cuts through like butter. You keep everything good and sharp, cuts through really good. Now, because the tip of this bar isn't necessarily meant for the power of this saw, yeah, you might go through bars a little bit quicker, but you can carve up many, many pieces from 2 to 3 feet tall really, really fast. Even 1 foot tall I use. I mean, this saw sees almost everything that I carve. Really, really great saw in my opinion. Steel MS-250, plenty of power. You can leave it stock. You could size it down to the smaller bar and chain from the 170 and sprocket and have yourself a little monster. in my opinion. Really, really great saw. So the MS-170, MS-250. This right here, guys, if you're not looking to get into really big carvings right now and you're just starting out, these two saws are just, this is my go-to. If I were to start carving, I wouldn't have bought two MS-170s. I would have bought a 250 and one 170 and set them up just like they are right here and went to town. That's it. So you've been carving a little while. You want to get into some bigger pieces, right? We're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 foot bigger kind of bears. And you want to be able to carve them out much quicker. Again, you need a saw with more power that's going to cut a little faster. Now this is the Stihl MS-271 Farm Boss. This saw has quite a bit of power. Comes with an 18-inch bar. Let's see here, I can't remember. It's got a 325 gauge chain, and it's or a 325 pitch chain. I'm sorry, it's 63 gauge chain. This eats. This is a new saw in my lineup, and I add it here with these three because it's like the three smaller saws that I'm really like using right now. I do have an MS-193 C back handle saw, and I don't think it's been worth the money. It's given me some headaches. It cuts when it wants to, and it just, I've noticed Stihl has discontinued the MS-193 and they've gone to a 194. So be interested to know if anybody's got the 194 and it's worked out well. 193, I don't have it out here. I just currently not sure I want to recommend it for the money, and I don't know if it's worth it. But anyway, the MS-271 Farm Boss. New saw for me, newer purchase. This thing just rips. It rips. I mean, you're gripping and ripping with this saw. This thing, I love it. I really do. I love it. It's a stock bar, stock chain, at 18-inch bar, and I really do like it. And I like it with this lineup because I can block out bigger carvings, right? 3, 4 footers easily, 5 footers easily, 6 footers easily. It's got plenty of power when you're all the way plunged in, and it cuts through really nice. So what I've been doing with 3 to 4 or 5 foot carvings, blocking them out with this, go in, do some finer cuts with the 250, and then do my detail work with the 170, and it's been a really good setup. Now, obviously, you got lots of different prices going on here. I recommend you guys go to Stihl.com, find your local dealer, and look at prices. There's really no point in me going over super detailed prices, as we all live in different areas, and everything kind of changes. But these right here would be 3 great saws to start with. First purchase, buy that MS-170, all right? Buy your detail bar kit, swap them on and off for a little while, make yourself some money, then go ahead and upgrade to the 250, okay? If you want to swap it out, great. If not, leave that stock bar on this thing, block it out, and detail with your 170. When you're ready to get into some bigger carvings, jump to the 271. It's been a great saw so far. We'll have to do a review in a year or two and see where it's at. I've only had it a few months, but I really like it and really have been getting some good use out of it. And at the moment, I think it's worth it. So after these saws, you get into some bigger stuff. You know, if you guys watch my videos, you see I'm carving up sometimes logs that are like 3 feet across for some big carvings. When I'm carving those, I'm getting into saws that are like 70 plus cc. I think the biggest saw I currently have right now is the Stihl MS-441 Magnum, and that's running a 25-inch or 26-inch bar. Use that on big logs for splitting them and blocking and things like that. So if you get into bigger logs, you end up wanting a bigger saw to get the job done. Otherwise, you're going to make, well, I mean, it can be done with smaller saws, but you're going to make a lot smaller cuts, removing small chunks at a time, which can be very time consuming. But yeah, I hope this would help you guys out. I always get that question, what should I buy for a first chainsaw? Again, Stihl MS-170. It's an investment, but it's not a huge investment in the scheme of things, and it could really get you started. If you guys have any other questions about tools and getting into carving and what you should go for first, feel free to ask. I'll work on putting a video together for you. Also, keep in mind when you go to buy your saw, buy your safety gear, okay? It's a good idea to have safety-toed shoes. It's a good idea to buy chaps. Things can happen. Get yourself some gloves, not the rubber grippy gloves. Don't get those. Gasoline and oil makes them slippery. Get yourself some work gloves. Doesn't matter what brand, even the fake leather, whatever. Work gloves. Ear protection, eye protection, a dust mask, all that kind of stuff are things that you should think about purchasing when you purchase your saw so that you're ready to go and you're safe. Now, if you've never ran a chainsaw before and you're thinking, I want to carve, but I've never ran a saw, look at all the safety stuff. Look it up. Your dealer will show you how to start your saw, at least they should, and if you don't know how or they don't offer to, ask them how. They'll give you a safety rundown on that saw and how to start it as well. It's also a good idea to just go out and make some cuts before you jump right into carving. Get yourself a log and just make some cookie slices. You know, practice with the saw, see how it handles, see how it feels, and then set yourself up in a safe area with room around you that's all clear, and just start carving away and have a ton of fun, guys, because that's really what it's all about. If you're just starting to carve though and you need a little bit of help on how to carve your first bear, I've got a bunch of tutorials. I'll even try to have one popping up here, but if not, at the end I will have a chainsaw carving tutorial link to my playlist. You guys can go there, check that out. Really hope this video has been helpful. I know it kind of seemed like it was all over the place, but some days it's just crazy like that. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, check out some videos popping up, guys, and I'll see you next time.